Over the past few weeks, there has been many changes within the Mario Kart Wii community. From CTGP announcing it's going down a more competitive player-focused direction, all the way to the Wiiki being cancelled? I have no idea what the hell is going on anymore, so let's talk about it. It all started a few weeks back when CTGP released a statement announcing that they would be changing the direction the pack goes in. The statement reads, "In the past couple years, there have been numerous custom track distributions that have begun to rival or even eclipse CTGP in popularity. Whilst most of the casual community has migrated to such packs, competitive players have remained on CTGP due to its reliable anti-cheat. CTGP has always attempted to be a pack that appeals to its player base, and with the largest and now most active demographic of players now being competitive, our priorities have shifted to become more aligned with the interests of the competitive community. The most frequent request we've received from the competitive players is the re-addition of tracks that have been removed from the pack." Now, this decision was extremely controversial when it came out, and I'm sure will continue to be that way pretty much for the rest of time. But the reasoning, I believe, is pretty sound actually, and I think this decision is long overdue. Basically, the way that I've seen CTGP over the past few years is that the pack hasn't really had an identity. The pack has tried to please everybody in the community, both casual and competitive, and both types of players have varying different needs from each track in the pack, or just from the pack as a whole. And as a result, CTGP has just had this really big headache, where rather than trying to please everyone, the knock-on effect has been that they've pleased nobody. There have been multiple times that this is kind of shown to me personally. I think it was pretty annoying to casual players when the change to the knee heads on minimap setting came in so that you could disable them for fun rooms. I think that was pretty annoying for the casual players because there'd been so many different code-based projects that have been in the works, like online time trial, 24 players, that sort of thing, which has just not happened, even though they've been promised years and years ago. However, it did seem competitive players complain about this one thing and it's immediately fixed. Which I can understand a little bit of frustration there, even though I personally don't think that's what happened. And then also for competitive players, there was a lot of discourse over Lumpy's Lively Rares introduction, and the fact that was gone after a year kind of shows that CTGP kind of went down the wrong direction for that. As much as I love Lumpy's, it wasn't exactly the smoothest experience, that track's introduction and all of the controversy that surrounded it until it was eventually removed. Especially given that track was added specifically because it was believed to be a good track for competitive, and then the competitive players just didn't like it. However, I personally feel this decision to shift to a more competitive player direction should have come years ago. It was clear around the time of Mario Kart Midnight that it really should have happened, because casuals just weren't really interested in CTGP anymore, and they were all already moving. A lot of casuals had already moved over to Midnight for that small period in time, and so it was going to be hard to bring them back anyway. And the problem with CTGP has always been CT World Rights, and what do you do to make them better? There have been many different talks. Do you split them up? Do you add a retro mode? How do you really balance it out? However, a lot of players have just used Mushroom Peaks as the excuse to be oh, it's because Mushroom Peaks is in the pack. No one wants to play because Mushroom Peaks is a potential pick, and that's not the problem, because there are 218 CTs, I believe. Yeah, 218 custom tracks that you can pick from, yet Mushroom Peaks, that one track, you're telling me is the difference between whether you play or not? I personally completely disagree with that idea. I think it is just been more of a case where CTGP has tried to please everyone, and then as a result didn't please anyone at all. And I personally think that the statement's kind of right. Like, competitive players have stayed because of the anti-cheat, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because what it's done is that it's allowed CTGP to kind of look at its audience to go, okay, we should focus on those that are still playing, which is competitive players. So a lot of casuals have already moved over to Retro Rewind, and that's probably the perfect pack for them at the moment. And that is totally okay. I don't really like Retro Rewind, but like, you know, I'm just one person in the world. Like, you know, it's clear that the pack works for a lot of other players, so fair dues. What this decision now allows is for the competitive players to have more of a voice and for their voice to be heard in a more like frequent way, which means that the pack will go down a direction where it can have a healthy and happy community without needing to try to please everybody, because the majority of the players are gonna be pleased, if that makes any sense. It probably doesn't, but it made sense in my head anyway. The decision's definitely like one that's gonna stir the pot a little, but from my personal take anyway, I think it's the best decision they could have made. If competitive players are the only ones playing, why would you try to focus on a community that isn't playing the game? Like, you're just getting yourself nowhere. So, in my personal opinion, this is definitely the right decision for CTGP to kind of like stand out as its own thing again, rather than being like a relic of the past. Now, what I'm about to talk about is a big what the fuck, because after 15 years, the Mario Kart custom track Wiiki is being shut down. Yes, I actually cannot believe that this is happening. So, if you don't know, the way that the community works is that custom tracks and other mods like music packs, texture packs, custom characters, the lot, are released on a wiki, which was created by a guy called Tok and has been actively moderated through Crummers, Kanto, and a few others. And now, after 15 years, on the 30th of June, the wiki is going to be turned into read-only mode, basically ending an era. Like, when I made custom tracks and I released my original music pack, it was all on this wiki. And within like a month, nothing will ever be published on it again. And it feels like a very sudden decision, especially for a wiki that has been the most popular that has ever been made for Mario Kart. The Mario Kart Wii custom track community is by far the biggest of any game, and also been the most active for the longest period. So it feels very weird for this decision to happen, and almost out of the blue. Like, it's a bit of a shock to the system. There is a announcement below the announcement, I guess. There is a little pop-up that does state that they are working on a new wiki to replace the current one, but weirdly, it's being done by the moderator team and not by Tok himself. So I'm not quite sure like what is going on here. I don't really know how to feel about this, to be honest, because this wiki's been around for 15 years, and like there's only like 4 tracks that came out before it. Like, you know, they're all like Mr. Bean and Chalice tracks. Like, that was kind of how it all started. It's an end of an era. It is 100% an end of an era, and I don't think anyone quite has realised that. But it's going to change a lot of things, because after the 30th of June, tracks won't be able to be released or updated on the wiki, and that isn't just tracks, that's music packs, texture packs, basically everything. User pages are locked in, but the main one really for me personally is what are called wish lists. So these are pages that like CTGP has it, I think Optpack has it as well, I could be wrong on that, but there's a few packs that have what are called wish lists, where creators can submit their own tracks to be reviewed and then potentially added. CTGP is the prime example of this, but it's gonna be interesting to see how does that change. Is this new wiki gonna be ready in time? I do not know. So it could be like a completely smooth transition from one wiki to another one, but it is gonna be strange. And if it is a smooth transition, how does like CTGP and Octpack and so on, how do they respond to this? How, like, do they have like a fail-safe measure? I could honestly see it being as simple as something like a Google form that people fill in. But then, like, how do you give out feedback to creators? You know, do you email them? Like, it's such a weird situation to be in. But I genuinely have no idea, like, how to react to this or how this is all going to work, other than knowing it is for sure an end of an era. And I personally think obviously the new wiki will be better because it will have like basically everything that's happened from the past wiki, like any mistakes, anything that like, you know, like any feedback, I think will be taken into account to make this wiki even better. But it's definitely going to be a strange situation to get used to, and yeah, it's a bit, I don't really know, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but just don't know how to respond. Like, I wanted to think about this more, but like, I don't think there really is anything to think about. We don't really have all the facts yet, so if there is enough in the future, like maybe just before the wiki ends, I want to do a video on it, closer towards its like final like day or whatever. But the easiest way that I can like, I guess like describe the feeling is like when the Late Show with Stephen Colbert was announced to be ending. Like, it just makes no sense, feels like a completely rushed decision, and I think it will be a decision that Talk will regret, to be honest with you. But overall, I hope that the new wiki will be a lot better. The moment that we know a little bit more, I will definitely want to do a follow-up video. I have a few ideas already on how I would like to see the new wiki, like maybe look, or a few changes already. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it does just end up being a replica, and to be honest, I think that will be okay as well. But I do have a few ideas, like my own little wish list, so let me know if you want to see that as well. But yeah, that is it for today. Quite a few like breaking stories. I don't think the community has had anything like this for a very long time, if not ever. So it will be interesting to see what the future holds. But until then, I shall see you very soon.